Hi there, and welcome to A Song of Ice and Fire Explained. This is a video series where we explain the massive conspiracies going on in A Song of Ice and Fire. If you haven't seen our previous videos, we suggest watching those first. So, let's continue on with Jon 2, A Game of Thrones. This chapter is 2,044 words long, and is told from the perspective of Jon Snow, after being convinced to join the Night's Watch by Ned. In this chapter, before leaving for the Night's Watch with Benjen and Tyrion, Jon says his last goodbyes, first to the comatose Bran, then to Robb out in the courtyard, and finally to Arya, to whom he gives a Braavosi-type sword. This chapter focuses on the 4 people, not including Eddard, who probably impacted Jon's life the most at Winterfell: Catelyn, Robb, Arya, and Bran, while no attention is paid to Jon's relationship with Sansa or the baby Rickon. Jon climbs the stairs to Bran's room with Ghost beside him, fearing that it might be the last time. Catelyn is there, having never left Bran's side for close to a fortnight, which has kept Jon away. But now, there is no more time. Something cold moves in her eyes. "I told you to leave," she said. "We don't want you here." Once, that would have sent him running. Once, that might even have made him cry. Now, it only made him angry. He would be a sworn brother of the Night's Watch soon, and face worse dangers than Catelyn Tully Stark. "He's my brother," he said. "Shall I call the guards?" "Call them," Jon said, defiant. "You can't stop me from seeing him." He crossed the room, keeping the bed between them, and looked down on Bran, where he lay. Jon finds Bran withered and shrunken, and asks him not to die. He remembers how much Bran was looking forward to going south. She was holding one of his hands. It looked like a claw. This was not the Bran he remembered. The flesh had all gone from him. His skin stretched tight over bones like sticks. Under the blanket, his legs bent in ways that made Jon sick. Jon tells a comatose Bran that everyone is waiting for him to wake up before explaining that he is going north to the Wall with Benjen. Catelyn confesses that she wished for Bran to stay home with her, and her wish seems to have been granted. When Jon attempts to reassure her, she lashes out on him, and, as he is leaving, tells him that it should have been him that fell. Jon makes the long walk to the yard, where things are in an uproar as the party prepares to leave. Robb brings news that Benjen is looking for Jon. When Robb asks about his mother, Jon tells him she was kind. Robb then remarks that the next time they meet, Jon will be all in black, and they hug farewell. Next, Jon goes to see Arya, who was repacking her things with help from Nymeria, not having folded them well enough for Septa Mordain. Jon says he has a secret present for her to a delighted Arya, who closes the door and sets Nymeria to guard it. Jon gives her a small sword made specially for her, one like the swords from Braavos. He explains to her that she will have to practice every day, shows her how to hold it, and then gives her her first lesson: stick them with the pointy end. He then warns her not to tell Sansa. Arya runs to him for a last hug. Just before he leaves, Jon tells Arya that all the best swords have a name. When she asks what her sword's name is, he explains that it's her very favourite thing. Then say the name together: Needle. And this memory warms Jon on the ride to the Wall. And this is where Jon 2, A Game of Thrones ends. This chapter shapes the psychology behind Jon Snow as a character, through his interactions with Arya, Catelyn, Robb, and Bran. We also get some potential foreshadowing when Jon tells Arya different roads sometimes lead to the same castle. If Jon does come back to life, then he'll definitely meet Arya again, which will be tragic because neither of them will be the same person that they were when they last saw each other in this chapter. The next person probably most responsible for influencing the Jon story is Catelyn, who is responsible for sending Jon to the Wall, and the person Jon thinks about more than his own Lord Father when it comes time to accept Stannis' offer to become a Stark. "I could be the Lord of Winterfell, my father's heir." It was not Lord Eddard's face he saw floating before him though. It was Lady Catelyn's, with her deep blue eyes and hard cold mouth. She was looking at him the way she used to look at him at Winterfell, whenever he had bested Robb at swords or sums or most anything. "Who are you?" that look had always seemed to say. "This is not your place. Why are you here?" Ironically, Caitlin might be more responsible for making John honor-obsessed than Ned, since we've always interpreted John's obsession with honor as having more to do with proving Caitlin wrong than about getting Ned's approval. Since John thinks about his bastardy all the time, and the person most responsible for reminding John of his bastardy would have been Caitlin, not Ned or any of his half-siblings. So, we propose if John is the savior of Westeros, it's because of the deep psychological trauma instilled in him by Caitlin through emotional neglect and a desire to prove her wrong for thinking less of him because he was a bastard. The next most impactful relationship is probably Robb, since John's closeness with Robb is interesting because they are brotherly, but John's entire character comes from living in Robb's shadow, and they both kind of know it, without ever acknowledging it. "I'm Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight," John would call out, and Robb would shout back, "Well, I'm Florian the Fool," or Robb would say, "I'm the Young Dragon," and John would reply, "I'm Sir Ryam Redwine. That morning he called it first." "I'm Lord of Winterfell," he cried, as he had 100 times before, only this time Robb had answered, "You can't be Lord of Winterfell, you're bastard-born. My lady mother says you can't ever be the Lord of Winterfell." Meanwhile, John's relationship with Bran, as shown in this chapter, is so pure and innocent that it would be tragic for John to find out that Bran tried to stop the Long Night by first building the wall, as Bran the Builder, then by sending visions to Aerys Targaryen. That only resulted in him becoming the Mad King before finally travelling all the way back to when the others first appeared, only to be trapped and turned into an other himself, giving the others their power to walk inanimated corpses. So, if John has to kill the Night King, he has to kill his little brother, and this chapter is the last memory John has of him. And that's about it for Jon 2, A Game of Thrones. In the next video, we'll cover Daenerys 2 and continue from there. In the meantime, here are the differences between the HBO TV show and book. The TV series has 3 additional scenes. The first shows the making of Needle and a conversation between Jaime and Jon, where Jaime ridicules Jon for planning to join the Night's Watch. The second is Cersei visiting Bran's bedroom and speaking to Caitlin about her dead black-haired child. In the book, Cersei tells Ned in Eddard 12 that she never gave birth to any of Robert's children, and had an abortion when pregnant with one. Robert was unaware of both the pregnancy and the abortion. In the show, Caitlin is hostile towards Jon when he visits Bran, but not as hostile as she was in the book. Also, Ned appears, and Caitlin guilts Ned for leaving, when in the books, it was her pushing for Ned to go to King's Landing and investigate Jon Arryn's murder for the sake of her sister, Lysa, and her son. The third and final additional scene is Ned and Jon's goodbye, where Jon asks about his mother, and Ned replies that the next time they see each other, they'll talk about his mother. Anyway, that's it for today's episode. If you want to see more of A Song of Ice and Fire Explained, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, when you get the chance, try out Fantasy Flight's A Game of Thrones board game, digital edition.